Hello everyone, and welcome to what I'm going to call Inner Warmth. We will do, as I've been doing, a two-part series. This week will be Inner Warmth themed around discipline, and the next series will be Inner Warmth themed around devotion. And there is this thinking that devotion and discipline are two sides of the same coin. So we will be disciplined and strong this time, and then in the next practice we will be devoted to our own well-being and a little bit softer. For this practice we will need a broomstick. You can also get a lot of the same benefit if you want more stability holding onto a wall or a chair or something like that. For me, it's easier to use a broomstick because there's nothing blocking me, so you can see what I'm doing. It doesn't provide as much stability when we do balancing poses, but we can also use it for mobility in our various movements. So I'm going to use a broomstick today. Do whatever you need at home. We will be building heat. We'll be doing strengthening poses. There's also the recommendation you might like to wear warm colored clothing. You may like to layer up in your own home to feel cozy. And please do remember, we want to stay hydrated. Even though it's winter, Ayurvedically, it's actually a dry season, especially if you have, a furnace, that forced dry air, maybe noticing dry lips, dry skin, that sort of thing. So that even though we are trying to build warmth within, if you want to stay hydrated, honestly, maybe warm water is a good bet for this one. It's not everybody's favorite. It doesn't always feel as refreshing, but it doesn't give you that same chill as cold water does. If not, adding a little bit of lemon makes it a bit more palatable. And of course, there are always things like peppermint tea, regular tea, coffee, whatever you like. So you might want to keep that on hand as we go to maintain your warmth. And actually, we are going to start without this. Now, of course, you may like to do this seated or with something else to support your balance. We will start with taking our fingertips to our solar plexus area. This is our focus for the day, our solar plexus chakra. This is how we build strength from the inside out. And we'll start with our fingertips on our top of our abdominals, bottom of our ribs. This can help bring awareness to our core muscles. And the reason why I say you might want to have something to help you with stability and balance is because we always have the option to close our eyes during our opening meditation, right? So let's start with what I call exhaling with exertion. This is probably more what the Pilates world calls it instead of the yoga world, but I think it makes the most sense. So we inhale, natural, normal inhale. And then as we exhale, we use the muscles under our fingertips to kind of push the air out. You might want to do it like that, exaggerated a few times. Gentle, deep inhale. Normal full breath and push it out. Using our rectus abdominis muscles, our solar plexus chakra, our abs, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to make it more gentle the better you get at it. Full normal inhale. Exhale, pulling in. And as much as we can, the rest of the body, we're not clenching. So we may notice as we're doing this that the shoulders start to come up, we're clenching the jaw, we're squeezing our eyebrows together, something like that. Let's focus our attention on our core muscles. Might be easier to do a soft little bend in the knees, so our muscles are still engaged in the rest of the body. We're not floppy, everything works together, but we're not clenching. And we can also add our pelvic floor or pelvic core muscles, so our abdominal muscles are lots of different layers. So keep breathing as I'm talking, still normal breath in, exhale, pulling in. So we use our abs to push the air out. And we're using this sort of eggshell, ripply six-pack part of our muscles to push out. But on top of that, or figuratively on top of that, but literally underneath that, deeper than these superficial muscles, we have our obliques that help us twist and stabilize. And then we also have our deep core muscles that pull everything in and pull everything up. So you may have gone through like Kegel type exercises before, if you've had a baby, everybody has a pelvic floor, even if you've never given birth, I promise it's in there. And this is why we call it our pelvic core. I think of it as the hammock in the bottom of our abdominals. It is the deepest, innermost layer of all our core muscles, and we can lift up through our pelvic floor muscles as we breathe out and pull in here. So everything is working together. You might like to picture sort of a jellyfish expanding, and then everything contracts together. Maybe a balloon squeezing together. And yes, it may take time to get the coordination. For those of you who are pros, you're probably thinking, okay, she's been talking long enough. So let's try to hold on to this exhaling with exertion. We maintain some tension with our inhale, so that means our ribs have to expand now. And we can hold a little more tightly all through our core, from the bottom of the pelvis to our ribs, side to side, front and back, pulling in. That's our stability, and hopefully we already noticed there is some heat building. And yes, the folklore is true. If you have heard this, it is not just a myth. You can get a really aggressive exhale with exertion going to the point that you start a sweat. You can create some steam going, even in the winter. So let's keep this inner warmth going. And we're going to start with Ganesha Mudra. So here is our discipline and healthy boundaries mudra. And I'll show us, we interlace our fingers. And traditionally, we can choose, if the left hand is on top, that is supposed to be a more feminine energy. And if the right hand is on top, that is a more masculine energy. And each of us has both. They're just constructs, right? So if we feel we need a little bit more softness and receptivity in our lives, maybe welcoming the dark days of winter ahead, we might like the left hand on top. And if we feel we need a little bit more strength, firmness, solid boundaries, heat, and light, then we can have the right hand on top. Yogi's choice, whichever we prefer. Let's take a moment to close our eyes, turn our attention inward, establishing this strong boundary on the outside first, and then feeling it come in. So strong hands, strong arms, strong posture, strong breath, and bring that strength inside ourselves. And we may like the affirmation, I have the strength to carry on. I have the strength to carry on. Our solar plexus chakra is the power to, I like to think of that old movie, Field of Dreams, go the distance. This is our power to see things through. So you may like to change the words of that affirmation, or maybe we simply repeat one more time, I have the strength to carry on. All right, let's release the hands, open the eyes if they're closed. Super simple, let's begin with our circle sweep. Familiar starting point, we inhale up, exhale down. Yes, we can still be doing that exhaling with exertion action that we were just working on, sometimes called Uddiyana action in Sanskrit. And what that means is that comes from our belly lock. It's usually translated as this action of pulling in, locking in our bellies, locking in our pelvic core muscles. We're gonna add on. Let's take a seat down and back into chair. Noticing how our chair is going today. Maybe we're doing just a little shallow chair, sitting into a bar stool, right? We have to have healthy boundaries, even with the amount of information you take in from me. Don't let me push you somewhere you should not be going. We'll give it a couple more here. And then I'll give us the option to add more challenge and more balance. This will be our last one. Let's do a big reach up overhead at the end. Nice stretch up and out. And we'll release our arms by our sides. Let's grab broomstick if you have. As I said, we'll be doing a balance option. And I'll show you from the side, might make it a little bit easier to understand. It's not too complicated. So we can hold our broomstick right in front. We're gonna sit down in a chair. We're gonna shift our weight and tap one heel forward. Come back through, tap the other heel forward, stand tall. And that's it. We can take a breath in to reset our brains. We're gonna do the opposite the next time. So as we sit down, we're gonna start with the opposite foot. Tap out, bring it in, tap out, bring it in. We're challenging our brains. This kind of coordination novelty might also build some heat because it's a little flustering. We get the warmth of flustering. And if we do get flustered, right, this is time that we can say to ourselves, I still have the power to go the distance. I can keep going, even if I feel flustered. Doesn't matter. If you can't remember right, left, or left, right, we keep moving. Can I do this with only one hand on the stick? Yeah, of course. And then maybe I'm switching hands. We could vary the speed. We could do all sorts of weird things. So let's take another minute here. Make it your own. Doing it in a way that feels like a good challenge. If we've had one hand on top the whole time, we could switch the other. I'm also having trouble keeping track of whether I'm on the right or the left, and that's okay. We could maybe be sitting a little deeper if we're feeling more warmed up, challenging our balance and shifting our weight side to side. Let's just do one more here. Whichever kind of variation we're doing at home, go ahead. And then we're coming back to center. Let's sit our hips back and come into sort of a number 7 stretch, a variation of our downward dog. Might be finding that our glutes are a little tired after that. Option to shift side to side, find a tight spot and sit into it. Oh. And then we're gonna bring our stick with us into our next flow. So let's do our basic sunflowers and moonflowers, and I will give us some options to increase our mobility and challenge. Generally, we take our legs quite wide. This is one that we can do at our desks during the day as well. If you sit a lot, take the feet wide, do a little movement even with the chair under you. For now, let's do as we did with our chair pose, lowering and lifting. Building heat, challenging balance, and I love challenging our balance at this time of the year because it's gonna be slippery out soon, isn't it? We're gonna have icy sidewalks, so if we still wanna get out, we should be pretty good with our balance. So that we practice challenging our balance so that when we go and do a little stumble outside, hopefully we can catch ourselves, right? Okay, if we wanna add on, you might wanna take that little piece of dust off the broom. We can reach overhead as we go. Now this one might be a lot to bend the knees as we reach overhead with the arms. So some people prefer to do arms and legs together. It's not my favorite way because I feel like I'm smacking myself in the legs. So I do it this way. Please split it up however you like it. So we have some added flexibility overhead. And then some of us might have even more flexibility to come in behind the back. Hopefully feeling some warmth in the legs. We've been here a while. We're gonna do one more for the legs like this, and then we're gonna move on to something else. Okay, let's do a last one here. Big reach overhead. Might feel nice to go side to side or whichever direction feels like a good option for you. Might wanna take our feet in a little bit closer. Let's take the hands back and we can lift the heart, lift the eyes. Maybe we're feeling some lengthening through the solar plexus as we do this. And then we can go back down to center. And again, placing the stick in front of us. And please do, use common sense. If the stick is just on a tiled floor or a smooth floor, then it might slip away. So I walk further back on my mat so that the stick can have the traction of the mat. Let's bend one knee at a time into side lunge. So personally, I'll leave one hand on the stick, take one hand to the thigh, and then switch. So again, we get this coordination practice that may also build heat. Little inner thigh stretch, or maybe a lot of an inner thigh stretch for you. If we want a deeper variation, some people like to take the fingers down to the inside of the foot. If we want to use our exhale with exertion, let's match our breath to movement. So maybe inhaling down, exhaling up, pulling the abs in on the way up. Always pulling the abs in with the exhale. Although you may be doing the breath backwards. Inhale, and then exhale, or vice versa. Okay, let's go a couple more each way from here. Hopefully these big muscles are working. So we're feeling some heat by this point, but we are gonna add on. Let's do a little bit of a breather here. If our toes aren't already turned forward, we can turn them more forward. And again, we'll sit our hips back into sort of this number 7. I'll show you from the side, but now our feet are wide. It may be a lot of flexibility to have the hands higher up on the broomstick, and you may or may not like that. We can hold here, or we can sway side to side, shifting our hips, moving our body weight. And again, we can exhale with exertion to bring ourselves up so that we're pulling in all of our core muscles to protect our backs. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll turn on our mats like a diving board, and I will turn towards you. I think that makes the most sense, which to me means I'm going to take my left foot forward and we're going to do a twisting lunge. So we got the back heel maybe lifted. A lot of people are more comfortable with it down. Left foot forward, and then I like the stick in the left hand. You might like to go the other way. We'll find out. Okay, we can take hand to heart center, take a breath in, and then as we exhale, we're gonna twist and hang on to the stick to hold our balance. Inhale, and exhale to twist. Another reason why I like this in front is because then we can actually use it to make sure that our knee isn't knocking around. So if I put it sort of close to my knee, I'll be able to feel if my knee comes out of alignment. But like I said, you might be happier with the broomstick in the other hand. Let's do just a couple more here. Any kind of twisting movement uses those layers of our abs that engage in twisting. So you might be feeling a little bit hot here. Let's plant that back foot flat. And if we can, all 10 toes pointed forward. Let's press our heel down and we'll lean forward again. We might like to use the broomstick to get a deeper stretch in the back of the leg. This one's also a great one if you push against a wall while you're doing it, can add an increased amount of stretch for the calf. We can straighten the front leg just for a moment. This won't be our deepest hamstring stretch of the day because this muscle is still gonna have to work on the other side. Let's switch sides. Again, I'm gonna face you. So we'll go ahead and take the right foot forward, left foot back in a lunge or a warrior position, some way that we feel comfortable turning and twisting. Okay. For me, I'm gonna take right hand with the broomstick, right foot forward, hand to heart center, just to sort of steady myself. Inhale, and then exhaling, twisting towards the broomstick. And for some, this may feel quite restrictive to have the broomstick. You'd rather have nothing, that's totally fine. But today we're using this prop as an option to get a bit more mobility, a bit more stability. It's a nice way to add some novelty to our movements. Again, we're using our exhale as we twist to pull in these muscles of our solar plexus. We can lift up through our pelvic floor. You could even just be holding steady and drawing the muscles in to focus on building heat in that area. We could be doing this sitting at our desk with our feet split, sitting on a chair. Lots of ways to build heat from the inside out. Okay, last one here. All right, let's plant that back foot flat, all 10 toes pointed forward. We can take the stick out in front, use it to steady our balance so that we can heft that left heel into the mat. If you're planning on going to lots of fancy Christmas parties with high-heeled shoes on, this one might be quite nice to do when you get home, to stretch out all the area that gets shortened when we wear heels. You might even prefer a flowing variation instead of a static variation to loosen up the back of the foot, heel, ankle, calf area. We'll do a little stretch on the front leg. Won't be here for too long because we are going to come back to our hamstrings. All right, let's step the feet together. Wherever you are, you can probably come back to face me. You might like a little bit more traction wide on the mat. And we will do a variation of woodcutters. We'll start with our broomstick since we have it. Just be careful. You're not going to bash into anything around you. We will use this to help maintain stability. So we're not just flopping and flinging. The broomstick can help us give a sense of our own strength. We might like to bend the elbows or keep them straight. So if you're like me and you have a little bit of a smaller space to work in, maybe bend the elbows. But we're going to use our core muscles to twist us. And like I said, the broomstick gives us a better sense of our own strength. Yes, we could do it holding nothing, but if we hold something, and there is a variation of this with weighted products, the steel mace, if you want to get one. But for us today, we'll just use this. Okay, so we'll pull the hands away from one another. They're not going to move because they're holding the stick. We'll inhale, and then we'll twist. Inhale, and then twist the other way. So sort of like a baseball bat swinging motion. If you ever do any of those steel mace classes, they will often have one hand move out. So we might like to do an underhand grip instead, or an overhand grip if that's more comfortable. So we can kind of play with this. And often when we think discipline, we think of like martial arts. I remember my friends when I was a kid taking karate classes and assuring me that is the best way to learn discipline. I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but I think of it now through our solar plexus. It is the power to carry on, to see things through the end, to push through. It is our superpower of consistency. Most things in life we get through consistency, not intensity. All right, and yes, we could be doing a big sweeping motion, whatever we like. Whatever you're doing, we're just gonna go once more each way. Come back through center, hopefully feeling strong through that core. We're gonna put this down. And yes, we're gonna stretch on the way if you choose to do so. And we're gonna do an option or a variation of woodcutters. So usually we just clasp our hands. You may have a fancy mudra you know that you like to do. But like we are chopping wood, we're gonna slice straight down. So the simple variation is to inhale up and exhale as we go down. If we wanna add a vocalization, we can. And yes, you can make it quite aggressive, however much movement you would like to do at home, however much noise you would like to make, go for it. We're just gonna do 5 more from here. Last 2. Last one. All right, we'll let this go. You may be feeling a little lightheaded or dizzy. It's okay. We can shake it off. That's one way to create a very good shift in our bodies. And you know what? Let's cool it down. Let's go ahead and we're gonna step into balance. So again, stepping like a diving board on our mats, we're gonna step forward and this will be our cool down. We're gonna flow as we go. 1 foot in front of the other, right and then left. Again, our power to go the distance. How do we accomplish anything in life? Keep putting 1 foot in front of the other. But it is our cool down. It is an active cool down because we just did a real of exertion, right? So maybe we take hands to heart and we'll do 2 variations of this. We can step and we can lift the back foot. We can step and maybe tap the back foot. Those aren't our 2 variations. Our first variation is a flowing variation. So this is variation 1, right and then left. Alternating one side then the other, seeing if there's a little bit of imbalance one side and then the other. Right, often we have our good side and then our not so hot side. Yes, some of us might like to do a big movement. Some of us might like to put our arms out. We have the option, yes, to pick up the stick and let that help us. But we don't have to do the world's biggest range of motion because we are going to get the stick in a moment for our static variation. So let's just play with this a little bit. We're letting our heart rate come down. My recommendation probably would be to inhale as we step and exhale as we lift. That's the Pilates instructor in me. Yogis would probably say inhale as we lift because it creates a more uplifting feeling. If we're feeling strong and confident, yeah, we could be doing a gigantic range of motion with this one. If we're just testing out our balance, dipping our toe in the water, we don't have to do a gigantic range of motion, right? But we're still getting the benefit of planting one foot, balancing. Our core and foot muscles have to figure out how to work together harmoniously. We can spread our fingers to help spread our toes. Just once more each way, and then we'll do our second variation with the stick. Okay, I hope our heart rate has come down a touch. We will keep cooling down with our balance with our stick. Okay, so again, if it were me, we're gonna step our right foot forward, which means I'm probably gonna place my right hand forward with the stick. So right follows right. You might feel more comfortable on the opposite, but this is why I prefer my right and my right. In order to lift the back leg, we actually get a little bit of opening, just a little. So to me, it feels more open and free. I feel a little bit more like a figure skater to have my same hand as leg. If we do the opposite, it just feels a bit more closed. Left hand can come out to help us balance. We can tap the left toes back down to help as well. Again, maybe we're just testing the water. Lots of people have, numbness in their feet, coordination issues, whatever it might be. Not everybody has super duper balance, but I can assure us that balance, generally speaking, is one of those things that builds pretty quickly. Okay, so let's lower down. Might want to give it a shake off. So I do find that if you practice balance every day for 1 minute for a week, you'll notice. Honestly, by the 4th day usually. So balance is one of those things that builds pretty darn quickly, which means it can be motivating to keep going. Okay, left and left. Unfortunately, we tend to lose our balance pretty quickly as well. Ugh. Strength generally takes longer to build, but we keep it for longer. Cardio is really tough to build, which is why so many people don't like cardio. It can feel really unrewarding because it takes so long to work on. But yeah, balance, at this time of the season, we might have lost some of it from last year. But if we work on it a little bit every day, we generally get it pretty quickly. No guarantees, but we can try, right? We can see if we can carry through, build that discipline to go the distance. Let's make sure we're still breathing. Whew. Come back through. Let's use our stick for one more. We're gonna inhale overhead. Take it to one side. We're pulling the hands away from one another. And the other side will go back and forth. Rather than being a floppy noodle, we have resistance on the stick as we go side to side, pulling the hands away. Maybe we turn the head. Wants to go with it, that's okay too. All right, we'll finish up. Might feel nice to do a bit of a lift too with the chest, let the arms go back. And of course, yes, for some of us, the arms are barely gonna get up there. Doesn't matter really. As soon as we start lifting, we lengthen out these muscles in the underarm, even if we lift a little bit. And that can actually help us take a deeper breath and can make us feel more relaxed, right? If our underarms are really tight, shallow breath, not so good, but any lengthening we get can help us take a much deeper breath. Let's take it in behind if it'll go there. We can take our hands wide. I usually do palms forward. We can pull the hands away from one another as we lift the heart. And we may like to add this to our wide-legged forward fold. Coming down a little or a lot. Again, we might like to use our broomstick for balance. And this will be our last standing pose. So we may actually like, to take the stick all the way down, our hands all the way down, widening our feet and bending our knees makes it easier to get there. A little bit of freedom of movement. And we're actually done with our poses. So we can make it to a seated position. That may mean we take it to the floor. That may mean we take it to a chair. Yogi's choice, as always, I will lead us from the floor. Option to pause for a moment in Child's to collect our thoughts. And if you're sitting in a chair, then just plain old sitting is a way to collect our thoughts. We could lean forward over the legs, similar to Child's pose. And then we will finish in a tall, seated posture, whether we're on the floor or in a chair. And let's bring it to a more gentle exhaling with exertion. So as we're sitting here, we still need some core strength, right? If I completely let my abs collapse, then probably the rest of the body is going to go with me. I might flump forward, might get some pain in my neck from terrible posture, but if I can use my core and my back muscles to stay tall, then I look just like the cover of Yoga Journal, don't I? So we can take our fingertips to our solar plexus again. Full normal inhale, noticing our ribs expanding, maybe feeling a bit looser in our underarms after we did that overhead stretch. And we'll have just a gentle pull in. And how do we find what gentle means? Next time you exhale, really as hard as you can in the abs. So really pulling everything in. And then let's take it to maybe 30% of that. Maybe even less than that. Maybe we're taking it to 15%. Just enough engagement that we feel held by our internal integrity. We can still draw up through the pelvic floor, still feel maybe pulled in through the sides of the waist and the low back, but we have enough muscular action going on in the belly that we still have some heat happening. And then we can leave our hands on our knees, and let's do a 4, 7, 8 breath. Inhaling for 4, holding for 7, and then exhaling for 8. So it looks like this. All right. So one other thing that we can add, like you maybe saw, was the pursed lip exhale. Yogi's choice. People will often say that take the tip of your tongue and push it to the roof of your mouth just behind your 2 front teeth. So the front top roof of your mouth, the tip of the tongue goes there the whole time. And I think that tongue on the roof of the mouth awareness, it helps to engage our core muscles, but I think part of the magic too is that this is supposed to be one of the best styles of breathing for anxiety. And often when we're anxious, we're flighty and not focusing on anything, so it gives us something physical to focus on. It's one of the best anxiety tips: tongue on the roof of the mouth, feet on the floor. And it can kind of get us back into the here and now. So if you like that option, tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Let's do 4 rounds like that. Inhaling for 4. With the lungs full, holding for 7. And then a full exhale, emptying out. And as we're moving into the holiday season, maybe using this to focus on a feeling of fullness. A couple more rounds at our own pace. Noticing how it feels to be full, filled up with our breath. Now, sometimes this breath makes people lightheaded. The recommendation for beginners is to only do 4 rounds. If you've done this a bunch before, they say no more than 8. So it'll give us a little extra time if we like. 4, 7, 8 breath, focusing on a feeling of fullness. Thinking about how we can fill ourselves up throughout the holiday season. We can fill ourselves with warmth, positivity, breath, inspiration. And it does feel nice to feel filled in many ways. We'll let the breath return to normal. And let's do one more mudra that is supposed to help us with digestion. And again, I'll show us up close. We take our thumb over the ring finger, and you might actually like to do the one hand holding the other. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky. One hand holding the other, and this is supposed to help with digestion. If we could do both hands together, there we are. All right. Thumb holding the ring finger. We can release our hands on our lap, or we may like to hold it in front of our area of digestion. One more time, our solar plexus mudra. We can relax the fingers. Don't overwork. Let's come back to our affirmation. I have the strength to carry on. If it's comfortable, we can leave our hands in this position a couple more minutes. And when the hands are ready for a break, we can rest them on the knees. And let's finish with a visualization. This is a tip that I got years and years ago for dealing with difficult people. And it goes like this: picturing a yellow bubble around you. This yellow bubble is a powerful force field. You can use it anytime you are speaking to someone who is a little bit difficult to deal with, or maybe says unkind things. And we use this yellow force field so that their words pass through the force field and pass through us without hitting us. Their words are simply released into the environment and have no impact on us. Spending some time here picturing this protective yellow bubble. This is our safe place, our healthy boundaries, and our disciplined protection of our internal emotional environment. Continuing to picture this yellow bubble, our safe space, staying here as long as you like. Practicing now while we're in a good headspace, so we have this tool later while we may be in a less than great headspace. Stay as long as you like, but our time together is up. Let's bring our hands to heart center when we're ready. As always, thank you so much for being here with me. Use this video as you need to as we head into that holiday season. From my light to yours, namaste.